funktioniert Hello. We just came back from the Gleishalle. We performed there till 2 o'clock and it's still pretty bright here and really cozy sounding. So when we got asked to talk to you, we just thought we should give you a little bit of an insight the way how we approach works we are doing together. Hannes and I, we met in the mid-90s. I came in the mid-90s to Berlin as a DAD, got a DAD scholarship, and it was the time where Berlin was really very, very informal in its concerts and party scene. So every day somebody came up with a new space where you could do concerts, and all of us had to learn in a very almost harmful way what the term Hörsamkeit means. Hörsamkeit is a term which came up in the 20s and 30s by German sound technicians when they had to think about how can we do radio broadcast, how do we qualify spaces in kind of their psychoacoustic, their psycho as well as physical acoustic qualities. And so we ended up many times with certain type of programs where we wanted to play something, but we realized the space is just not capable for this acoustical information. It really makes no sense to do drum and bass in a space with 7 seconds reverb, because the information is so short that actually it diminishes. The other thing is it also makes no sense to do in a dry place like here, Gregorian chant. You know, so, and this is actually something that we really came about. And when Hannes and I met, we really thought what's really interesting for us is actually when we always fight with these spaces and to find stuff which work there, why not really start out by the space? So whenever we do a work, the first thing is that the venue or the landscape or whatever is given to us is the first thing that we try to investigate. This year we got invited to a kind of an outdoor installation at the Herrenhauser Gärten, which is a huge Baroque area and garden in Hanover. There's a curator called Carsten Seifert, and he was commissioned by the festival to make a kind of a sound exhibition there. And okay, maybe we are not really. Yes. So we're talking about this site, and you know it fulfills visually completely all the criteria of a wonderful Baroque garden. But you also can see there visually there's some kind of artifacts in the landscape which change the emotional contour of this, which is in this case a huge highway. So the interesting thing for us was Carsten Seifert asked us actually to activate somehow this whole part on the end, which 2 Baroque pavilions and a kind of a rotunda in front of a huge farm. And when we came there and investigated it, we also realized that, you know, let's maybe go back one step. I mean, how do we really understand or perceive sound? I think there are 4 criteria are really running in daily life. They count. First, if we hear something, like when Werner was nicely giving us a little sound here, this is a kind of physics are working that they can hear it like this. The way I really hear it, since it was not too high pitched, so the elder of us will not have troubles to hear it. So there are all these psychoacoustic phenomena coming into play. But what's much more important, I would say, in everyday life is actually the cultural context we're coming from. And secondly, I would say the personal story. So for example, if one of you guys is a skateboarder and he hears another skateboarder out there, he maybe enjoys it. If you sit in your office, you get maybe very much annoyed. So the thing when we investigated the space, we realized that the only place actually where there's some kind of synchronicity between the historical part of the garden and the architecture was this pavilion up here. Because this pavilion was the only one which was not really completely clouded by the highway. So what we thought then is how can we make a kind of a piece which somehow connects this whole area in a way that we get people to at least to imagine maybe what this garden was meant for once. And because the other thing which is what's so interesting with sound is we're here in a pretty new building, so I would say our sound events are matching up in time. But if you stand and talk in a Baroque hall, actually you're talking in a historical site, which was done once, and you bring in your contemporary sound events. And what happened to these gardens basically is that up to here, almost to this part, the highway completely overrules the garden. So what we tried to do is, we tried like what we do in the Gleishalle, where we really try to get the features out of the architecture, what kind of frequencies are being more prominent than other ones, what is more tamped, what is more enhanced. What we thought here is what kind of atmospheric contour we could work with to give actually the people an idea maybe to, how can I say, maybe to intrigue them to listen to the environment, to listen where they're walking, maybe to realize maybe that they're changing from a place where there's gravel to grass. In order to get all these kind of little details, they actually make life much more interesting. So finally what we came up was that we thought, okay, we want to have most of the people walk down the main hall, the main lane. So we inserted here kind of a pulse. Yeah. But what was also very important for you to know is, because when we do this type of things, we also think very, very much about how can we actually present the sound to the audience. So for this, we're working with a type of speaker which is non-directional, because we didn't want that the direction, how you approach it, has any kind of meaning. So this is a kind of a speaker we invented almost 20 years ago, which is a kind of a cement cube, which is very good in vandalism, you know. So even dogs can piss against it. And the other thing what's interesting, it has 200 kilograms, so you just can't carry it home. And cement is, for all the people who've been into acoustics, a really good material for speaker, because it has no resonance. And the driver just plays the sound to the floor, and the gap from the floor to here acts like a tuning gap, so you really can decide how high or how low you put it, what type of frequency you let it come out. So in that case, it was, we tried to tune it for just a kind of a bass pulse. Maybe we just want to give a little bit. You know, when you observe such a garden, then you also realize that almost each changes, how this garden is organized, is actually also different type of features in the landscape come up to your mind maybe each 10 or 15 seconds when you walk. So this was also kind of a ratio for us, how we wanted to install a kind of a pulse, just only a low frequency, which is only giving the whole space, yeah, a kind of a pulse. And this is also, and it became in a way a kind of a hangout spot for the people. And what it also did is it helped us to treat people. Maybe we can go back to the other picture. You see, we are not professionals in this. So no, it's okay. So you can, it's good. So you can see when you hang out here, you see these two pavilions, and since people know maybe through the information of a little booklet or whatever that maybe there is something, so actually we managed to get them there. And what we tried to do then finally is that, I don't know, was it the pavilion next to the highway?
No, this is the other one.
Okay. So what we really try to do is to give the pavilions some kind of emotional contour, because we both fans from the term psychotropic, the psychotropic quality of architectural landscape, because we really believe in a way that, like what this room also does, the way how a room sounds or a landscape feels to you, it really somehow conducts your action. So what we did then finally was to put in this one pavilion which matched up the most to us, to the whole Baroque idea of it.
Play?
Yeah, please.
But that's a recording inside of the...
It was a kind of an overdone structure where the festival director came into the pavilion and said, Rheingold. It was not our intention, but it was well like this. But once again, this is only stupid little representations, you really would have to be there. So the other thing which was more interesting was when we go back to the other one, which was so overwhelmed by the highway, that we were really searching for a kind of a sound structure where the highway becomes a partner from us. So what we did there actually was we worked with, maybe play it first. I think what you can hear immediately is you hear this kind of grey noise from the highway, and what we did is we put it very, very slow glissandi. And the funny thing is when you looked in the book from the garden, from the festival where people could write comments into, I think 2 people actually wrote down, till they came to our pavilion, they had no idea that there is so much traffic noise. So in a way actually we enhanced for many, many people to start really to listen to the environment. Because I think we all have this wonderful feature the brain provides us that we can filter out sounds we don't like. But for sure, I mean, in this kind of Baroque architecture environment, the highway sound is definitely not something what you would expect, so for sure you don't listen there. And this is what we just tried to do. I think we have 1 minute left. So actually we pause here. I think the best is that maybe you have a question or something, because if you talk about something else, you would have a little bit more time. Thank you.
Thank you.